Hello and welcome to this YouLove info video. We would like to use this occasion to give you some information on the cumulative layout shift, a topic that has been causing quite the uproar in our industry for a few months now. In the unlikely case that anyone hasn't heard about the topic at all, here's a quick summary. Cumulative Layout Shift, or CLS, is a new metric introduced by Google that evaluates the visual stability of a website. If the layout of a website jumps during the loading process, that is, if content that has already been loaded shifts due to the insertion of elements such as ads, this will be reflected in a lower rating. CLS is part of Google's Core Web Vitals, a collection of 3 criteria that will soon be incorporated into Google's ranking algorithm, and thus have an impact on how a page performs in Google search results. The inclusion of Core Web Vitals in the ranking criteria is expected to happen before the end of June. As with the other Core Web Vitals, Google has introduced a 3-tier ranking for the evaluation of the CLS and rates the performance of a page as either good, needs improvement, or poor. To show how the CLS is calculated by Google, here's a small example. This mockup shows a mobile website with a quite typical structure and already loaded content. Downstream, the ad is now loaded. In case of this example, a mobile medium rectangle is inserted. This leads to a downward shift of the content. The score mechanism that calculates the CLS value is quite simple. The distance fraction of the displacement caused by the inserted element, in this case the advertisement, is multiplied by the impact fraction, the amount the content was shifted in total. For this example, we can see a shift of almost 90%, with only the navigation on top remaining static. As I said, these two values are now multiplied, in this case 37% times 90%, and that ends up being 0.33, which is a poor score according to Google. What should also be taken into account when calculating the CLS score is the following. As the name suggests, it is a cumulative value. This means that other content shifts that users encounter on the page the further down they scroll are also included in the score. The fictitious value that we have calculated here for our example is therefore far from final. Now, of course, the question is, what exactly is the effect of the CLS? The answer, as is so often the case, is that it is complicated. The effects are not easily quantified as many factors come together here. For one thing, the percentage that the CLS score is weighted within the ranking is around 8%. The behavior of users is also a very unknown variable because the score is based on their behavior over the last 28 days. And your own ranking in comparison to the competition also has an influence because the entire industry faces the same challenge and has to struggle with the evaluation criteria accordingly. Lastly, the publisher's own risk must also be evaluated when deciding on whether to take action. A site that has 90% search traffic from Google should prioritize the issue much higher than a site that only has 10% search traffic. What is important is that there is no need to panic. This has been confirmed by Google. The relevancy of content will continue to have the highest priority within the ranking criteria. This means that if you approach the topic conscientiously and continue to produce high-quality content, you don't need to worry too much about your own ranking. Currently, only 22% of all websites reach the recommended values for all Core Web Vitals. A separate look at the CLS score shows that less than 50% of all websites achieve a good score. However, the issue of usability and visual stability will be seen as a hygiene factor in the future and will gradually become an important differentiator within the competition. Publishers should therefore work proactively on optimizing their pages. When it comes to our recommendations on how you should proceed, we now have to evaluate a few things. The goal has to be to minimize revenue loss while optimizing the CLS score. An individual look at each publisher is necessary to find the right optimization measures because each site has its own challenges. The first step is to compare the share of search traffic and advertising restrictions. The question must also be asked whether advertising formats that move content should continue to be used. We recommend the continued use for ad formats that have a high CPM and formats that have a lower reach in comparison to the total monthly page impressions. A simple optimization would be to only allow one ad format size going forward. However, This is not recommended because on the one hand, the revenue of all excluded sizes will be missing, and in addition, the demand for the advertising slot will be reduced, which will lead to lower CPMs. So, what does that mean for publishers? What should you do? Well, first, check your own CLS score. Google has provided a helpful tool for this called Page Speed Insights. Secondly, check your SEO traffic share in order to be able to do the internal evaluation we just talked about. It is also important to note that not only ads cause layout shifts. Other elements must also be checked and optimized if necessary. Finally, we would like to present a few examples that can be useful for improving your CLS rating. One possibility is the use of a placeholder for the ads, which is loaded together with the content, so that there is no content shift when the ad server inserts an ad. Another measure is fixed ad slots. This means that the size of the ad placement is based on the largest ad format allowed. For example, in mobile, if a medium rectangle is set as the largest format on the placement, this means that the placeholder is opened up to the height of the medium rectangle. If a smaller format is loaded, like a 6x1 banner, it is inserted in the middle and then scrolls to the end of the placement. On the one hand, this has a positive effect on viewability, and on the other, we can also ensure that other formats are still being sold this way. Another option specifically for increasing user acceptance is loading animations that can be inserted, which can also lead to an increase in advertising impact because it attracts the attention of users accordingly. Finally, what we also recommend, especially for sites where 100% advertising load cannot be ensured, is a backfill campaign as a placeholder so that ad slots are always filled. And that is it for now on the subject of CLS. We hope that we have been able to clear up some of your questions with this video. If you have any further questions about CLS, please do not hesitate to contact your personal YieldLab representative. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.